BBC Radio Sheffield, you're with Paulette. So this play is a new play, open in Chesterfield, inspired by the WASPI campaign. So Women Against State Pension Inequality, full title. And it was on in March. I went to see it and it's now back. It's called Stung, inspired by the women who have been caught up in government efforts to cut the costs of paying for the state pension and to equalise the age at which men and women receive the state pension. Well, Joan, Angela and Karen from WASPI are in the studio for a bit of a chinwag, which is always a delight. Thank you so much for coming in for a chat today. So before we get cracking on, why the play's back and the new Mrs. Hooper and all of the back by popular demand. Just remind us, we spoke about this a couple of times, Angela. What is WASPI? Just give us in a nutshell again, please.
WASPI represents women born in the 1950s who were the first generation of women to be affected by the increases to the state pension age. And although we absolutely agree that men and women should get their pension at the same time, unfortunately, the Department of Work and Pensions never told us about the changes. So, for example, I only learned when I was 58 years old that I wasn't going to retire at 60. So it came as such a shock and we had no time to do anything about it, really.
Has there been any progress then? Because I know you've been fighting this campaign. Things have been changing, moving a little bit in the right direction. What's the latest on it?
A little in the right direction, yes, Paulette. The latest is that our case is still with the Parliamentary Ombudsman. He declared in 2021 that the Department of Work and Pensions did get it wrong. They'd committed maladministration when they were communicating about the state pension age. And he released a Stage 2 report in December last year. Unfortunately, it didn't define maladministration in the same way as his first report, and he seemed to make a special case out of us, and the report was actually unlawful, so we challenged it in court and the Ombudsman agreed to rewrite it. So he's still busily rewriting that report.
Right, so we're still waiting for the outcome of that. So Angela, I remember seeing you actually on stage in March showing off, enjoying yourself. Joan was with you as well. So Joan, who did you play in the film? It might be a premonition that in the stage version of Stung, who did you play?
Well, I play Stella, who's really harassed. She's quite anxious, and she's a district nurse, and she's still working at 63, as well as looking after her elderly father and providing weekend childcare for a daughter who's struggling to make ends meet. So, as you can imagine, at 63, she has all on, and one of the lines in it is, "My anxiety levels are higher than Blackpool Tower."
There are some good lines in
I
it.
did struggle to remember that line for months and months and months, but managed it on the day.
Which is great, isn't it? So I understand, Karen, that you're the new Mrs. Hooper. Who's Mrs. Hooper? I understand who you are now. So you weren't in it the first time round, were you?
No, I wasn't in it. I came to see the play, and when I was leaving, I said to one of the cast members, I really, really enjoyed the play. I loved it. I loved the humour in it. If anybody drops out, please get in touch with me because I'd be interested in being part of it. So I'm the new Mrs. Hooper. I'm rather posh in the play because I thought the name sounded quite grand, so I thought I'll be the posh Mrs. Hooper. So it's a slightly different slant on the character.
Well, it sounds good to me. We used to have Mrs. Hooper live next door to us on Grimesthorpe Road, and she was ever so kind. She used to work at John Lewis at the time, and she used to bring us bits and pieces. She'd say, "Oh, Dottie," my mum, she's called Mum, "Dottie, they're chucking this away. Where you could put that on one at kids." And my mum said the stuff was pristine. It might have had a little bit of, might need a little wash here and there, but it was just pristine stuff, and she'd just bring stuff round, and she was a delight, that Mrs. She weren't posh though.
No,
she weren't
wasn't
posh,
posh,
Karen,
no.
but she was a delight, a really, really kind and wonderful woman. Do you feel then, particularly I'll ask you, Karen and Joan, do you feel, Joan, that your story's being told in the play?
Oh, it's every woman's story. It's an amalgamation of every woman's different story. It's not my story, but it will be somebody else's story. And Jean's story and Mrs. Hooper's story, Harriet's story, is again an amalgamation. And we cover every type of difficulty that the women have experienced because of this injustice.
Wonderful. Well, I've said that you're on tour, so you've done one, you're going to do another one in Chesterfield. We'll talk a bit more about that, Angela, after. I did compare you to the Rolling Stones being on tour. Here are the Rolling Stones, BBC Radio Sheffield. I'm talking to Joan, Angela and Karen. They are waspies that are putting on a production called Stung in Chesterfield.
Come on.